good to go.
I'm good to go too. All right. How was your
Welcome
day?
back to the PO3 Podcast.
PO3.
PO3 Podcast. Yeah, we actually got a domain name now. Victor, second podcast, we got an official domain name.
Yep.
PO3. And it's actually an acronym. So, I mean, we'll go into further depth about what the actual acronym means. So it does stand for something. Oh, that's what I wanted to do too. I'm gonna do it. Yeah, we have an actual meaning behind it. And it's actually pretty cool. It's an idea that I came up with. And I pitched a couple of things to Victor about maybe what we wanted to call the podcast. And that's just what we stumbled upon.
And it resonated.
And it resonated too.
Yeah.
It just happened to work out.
Yeah.
So
PO3Podcast.com.
And what was the other one? I knew you had another one. Should we even mention it yet? Now we'll say. I mean, well, it's Party of Three. It's short for Party of Three.
Yeah, but we have both the domain names.
But we have both domain names.
Podcast.com or PO3Podcast.com. They're not launched yet, but they will be up shortly.
So is that what you're leaning more towards? Maybe like starting a website, something like that.
Well, the website, that way people could go and read our disclosures, knowing that we're not psychotherapists or anything like that. We're just giving our own opinion.
Disclaimer. Go ahead.
Yeah, disclaimers.
Give us a disclaimer. What is it?
Oh, our disclaimer is that we're not therapists, counselors, psychotherapists, none of the above. We're actually the patients coming from that end of it. And anything that we say or do is because of our own choices, our own free will, and we do not advise anyone else to do that, or nor do we ask anybody to take our advice or follow what we've done.
We are speaking solely based off personal experience, and same goes for me. I am not a licensed therapist, psychiatrist, or any of the above. I'm not a doctor by any means. I'm speaking based on my personal experience. I'm not directing you or advising you to do anything. What you do with how you consume this podcast is directly based on you.
Yep. And if anyone knows anyone who's suffering from mental illness, or they themselves are suffering from mental illness, they can go to the National Alliance on Mental Health, and that's mental illness, and that's NAMI, NAMI, and they have a toll-free number, which is 1-800-950-6264. That's 1-800-950-NAMI, NAMI, or they could email them at info@nami.org. And that's for if you know anybody who's suffering from mental illness, or you yourself, and you need to reach out to someone, because it's
important.
Very important.
It's very important that anybody who's going through something like this should
The
have a
suicide
place.
rates.
They should have a proper place to reach out to and seek help if they need it.
The suicide rates alone are up this year in 2019. There's only one state that suicide went down, and that's in Nevada. It went down just 1%.
Are psychedelics legal there, by any chance?
No.
No. What caused that to go down? I wonder the percentages. Yeah.
No, it's on their website.
Nevada. Yeah. Is Las Vegas in Nevada?
Yes.
Yeah. Isn't that's so a place where there's like deep gambling, alcoholism, homelessness is a place where suicide rate went down?
Maybe they're winning more.
I don't know. That's odd. Can you pull that up and see maybe why?
Yeah, it's a report actually from the CDC website.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Nevada is the only place that went down. It decreased by 1%.
I've never been to Vegas still. I'm almost 30 and I've never been to Vegas. Am I even missing anything? Have you been there?
Yeah, I like Vegas. The shows are cool. I don't really gamble that often, but the shows are really, really good. And if you do go to gamble, just go like if you're going to a regular video arcade and you're going to spend your money and you're not going to take it home with you. And if you do take it home with you, then great.
And know when to walk away.
Yeah.
You tend to get ahead of yourself.
Yeah,
Some people try to keep winning and winning and winning and winning. It's like, dude,
they put their car on there, their house, their dog, their wife.
You almost need a chaperone, but it's know when to put your card away and just walk away from the table.
I'll take your card for you.
Yeah, remember I was telling you too, like the other day when we went, I just couldn't stop myself from spending. I was like, why is nobody telling me anything? I guess it's okay. I could just keep going. I was just literally swiping my card and not knowing if it was gonna go through, and just hoping that I was getting lucky. Like the look on my cousin's face right now. He's like, dude, that is a problem.
So in North Dakota, the rate jumped up 57%.
57%.
Yep, the rate was highest in Montana. Wow, 29.2 per 1,000 residents compared with the national average.
It doesn't say anything on if or why it went down in Nevada.
No, it's just saying that suicide is being viewed only as mental health problem, not a public health problem. Nearly 45,000 suicides occurred in the United States in 2016, more than twice the number of homicides, making it the 10th leading cause of death among people ages 15 to 34. So these are young people, really young people.
What was that part?
There's an issue. People are getting depressed, more and more depressed. Whether I think social media has a big thing to do with it because you're looking at everybody. Yeah, a huge factor because you're looking at everybody else, and a lot of people are showing what they have or where they're going and all the good stuff, and they never show what's real, what's really going on in their life.
Mm-hmm. And they said they mentioned it wasn't a public problem.
No, it's a mental illness, not a public health problem. It's a mental illness.
Not a public health problem. So
yeah.
What would that mean? Why wouldn't it be a public health problem? What's that? Funding?
Yeah. State funding.
That just stood out to me that they said it wasn't a public. Mental health wasn't a public health problem.
But they always do stuff like that because of the funding.
Mm-hmm. What are you trying to look up?
On the CDC website.
Uh-huh. Oh, the same thing that we just...
Center for Disease Control. Wow. A lot of suicides are because of transgender identity, suicide, sexual orientation, bullying. Bullying, of course, is one of the biggest problems right now.
And I think that's with anywhere in the U.S. It doesn't really matter where you are. All those factors are going to be in any school, any society. People getting bullied or judged because of their ideology or the way that they present themselves or their sexual orientation.
Well,
gay, straight.
Suicide is one of the top 10 leading causes of death. Top 10.
And that
goes along with heart attacks and strokes. Yeah. That's just crazy. And a lot of the suicides are happening in rural areas.
Rural areas. What does that mean?
Like all the like Fresno would be a rural area. Uh-huh. In Colorado, you'd have Boulder would be a rural area.
I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna see what the actual means. Rural means in relating to or characteristic of the countryside rather than the town. Mm-hmm. So like the outskirts. Maybe?
Uh-huh.
Okay,
countryside.
So there's more suicide on the outskirts of towns than actually in the suburbs or something like
where
that.
The cities are.
I wonder why that is. Maybe they feel like they're not part of a group or something. Maybe they're outsiders. Not just literally, but figuratively. Specific factors that increase risk of suicide. Because rural populations are not all the same, these factors are simultaneously increased risk for some groups while reducing it for others. For example, the traditionally protective factor of living in a tight-knit community, which can increase one's sense of connectedness. So that's kind of what I was going back to. Maybe they feel like they're not part of a group or something.
Yep.
Can also increase suicide risks or for marginalized groups of people, such as LGBTQ youth and racial/ethnic minorities. So what I'm pulling from that is because they're a little bit more segregated than the most of us are, or the rest of us might be, that there's a little disconnect there on top of whatever they're dealing with, which could lead to loneliness, anxiety, drug use.
And they need to be reaching out too. Like, if you think about it, in bigger cities, you have more of a connection with people who are working in suicide prevention. They go out to schools, colleges, they reach out to the people. Rural areas, there's less of that. There's less of an outreach in those areas. So
they're less active to take care of the problem.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't seem it doesn't seem as irrelevant because it's something that we're not directly viewing. It's not really in front of us. It's something that's kind of in our peripheries.
In a bigger city, you have somewhere to go. Like, you could go to the LGBTQ community center or the older people's, what do you call it?
Community centers.
There's more
or something.
community centers that are open.
Not nursing homes.
No. Community centers.
Okay.
And in rural areas, there's not really that much out there.
Uh-huh.
And if you think about it, it'd probably be more... Everybody knows everybody.
Well, you've seen it on movies before where, like, you get a scene where it's in a really dry town and you can just tell that the environment is clearly different and it's poverty-stricken because it's in a different area. And that's where you get more of a chance of higher drug use.
And not only that, if you think about it, here in a bigger city, we could go across town where nobody knows us.
Mm-hmm.
In a rural area, everybody knows each other in a small town. So it might be harder for people to reach out because you don't want to be looked upon as that one person.
The
You
black
get what I'm
sheep.
saying? Yeah. So it's probably even more tough. So, I mean, it's making more and more sense now that I think about it.
So what else did you want to dive into?
I wanted to...
I knew there was something that you kind of wanted to maybe go over a little bit and discuss.
Well, just like, how are you dealing with your issues right now? The last few days that we haven't spoke, and since we did speak last time, how do you feel about opening up that way and and talking about it and getting it out there? Because basically, you're letting the world know what you're going through in your mind. And I'm my same with my schizophrenia. You know, I'm letting the world know, and family members who didn't know, friends who didn't know, and you know, I'm putting it all out there.
We were talking about that before we started recording, as to how I felt, maybe about releasing all this stuff that I have kept to myself for so long, and not realizing that if it does end up in the hands of the ones that are directly related to me, how I would feel about that. Because there's still things that I keep to myself that I purposely haven't revealed to these people for very specific reasons, as like, I wouldn't want it to tear the family apart. I would want it to be something that if I ever had to reveal it, it would take a lot of work, and it have to be on my own terms.
And it always should be.
And I don't know if at this point that they are ready to be able to handle that type of information. So I would love to throw it all out there, and I most likely will, and that's what's gonna happen. And
It
if
doesn't have to happen today or all at once next week or.
Well, whenever it happens, and I've already accepted the fact that I'm just ready to deal with any repercussions that come with this, because in a way it is therapy for me.
And if you think about it, it's not really repercussions, because if you're coming out with your own truth,
Yeah.
that's who you are. And no matter what, we got to accept each other for who we really are in this world. And that's the problem that's happening right now is, you know, we're always concerned about how, what, who, where, when everybody's doing, going, whatever it is. And we're not turning ourselves and looking at ourselves and saying, okay, this is who we are. This is who I am. I'm not perfect. You know, I'm not complete like everybody wants to be. We all have flaws. We're all human. Even the best motivational speakers say, you know, we have problems too.
Even those best
We're
motivational
human.
Speakers are probably speaking from a place of pain.
Yeah, they all are. That's how they become to where they're at. That's the best.
And it's still driving them.
Yeah, that's what drives me in doing my speaking.
Yeah, so no matter what you see on the exterior of somebody, it's usually never what meets the eye. It's always a little bit deeper than that if you take the time to dig into somebody.
That's
and
right.
See who they really are.
And that's why we're here. We're here facing our truth. Like I said before, getting naked with who we truly are.
Yeah, so going back to what he was saying, if the questions do come up, I'm going to answer them truthfully. I'm not going to hold back anything because this is, like I said, a form of therapy for me. I've never, prior to this and to coming over here, I've never had anybody to talk to about it. I've always just kept it to myself. It's always just been something that built up over the years, and I would let out my frustration and my anger on maybe my partner or my workplace or myself even. Self-inflicting wounds.
That's the reason why there's so many suicides too. Because people don't talk about, because of the stigma.
Yep.
They're afraid what everybody's going to think or say. I've come to a point in my life where it might sound bad. People might not like what I'm saying right now. I could give a shit what anybody says anymore because I am who I am.
Well, you're so focused on getting better that you don't even have the time to
You can't.
even give a shit about what they think about.
No, you can't.
Because the thought of entertaining their opinions is far more insignificant than your own self-image. What do you think of what you think about yourself and the direction you're headed?
That's right.
You're more focused on trying to get better.
And think about it. Think about it really hard. How consumed we get of being so fearful of what everybody else is going to think or say about us. If we do this way, we do something this other way. we're so afraid of what someone's going to think, how someone's going to feel, and we're so afraid of offending someone or making somebody get hurt, feel bad because of our own personal choices. We need to stop that. Our life, our choices. And if every single person does this, they'll respect others as well.
Well, they respect themselves, and then that's where that confidence comes from. And then eventually with self-confidence comes
self-respect.
A lack of fear starts developing as to them actually being themselves. So the more confidence you gain, the more of yourself you actually become, and you start slowly displaying that to the to the world or to the others around you, and you realize that their opinions, they don't really matter. You might take them in, but a lot of people, what they're doing right now is they're fearful of the reactions that they're going to get from people, and deep down I feel like it's a rejection thing that maybe they're afraid of
being
and
rejected.
they fester over people's opinions, like on Instagram, because it's so directly available to you. You can go on somebody's Instagram and compare themselves to yourself, or compare them to yourself, and people start looking in the mirror and they feel like they're inadequate.
Yeah. Have you seen my post on Instagram?
No, I haven't been on there.
I do my own posting now. I've been creating my own content on there, and a lot of it's like I have this.
Plug yourself. What's your Instagram?
VJ Inspires.
At VJ Inspires. So.
Yep, at VJ Inspires on Instagram, and I create my own little postings, and I do my little art stuff. I have this little guy standing there with all these eyes on him, and I said, we're always worried about this happening instead of worrying about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
If we focus on what we truly want in ourselves and where we're going, and not worried about what everyone else is doing, then it's going to become a lot easier.
Yeah. So these past few days, at least since I've been talking to Victor, I've been under at least, I feel like it's self-inflicted stress that I've been under, but it's been to the point where it's been I've been having physical side effects from it, like itching, migraines, body aches, fatigue, all that stuff. And I think it's important to get to the root of that stress that I'm going through, because at a certain point it kind of becomes, you just become numb to it, not even knowing that you're in a state of stress.
Yeah, and you could go into Bing or Google and search online. I just typed in right now, poor mental health can lead to physical ailments. Depression can show up as headaches, gastro issues.
Mm-hmm.
So like they say, the power of the mind is very, very strong. I say this all the time, whatever you focus on, you could achieve it. What you believe you could achieve. Same thing goes for depression. If you're feeling depressed, then you start, all these other issues start coming in. You get heart problems, you get, there's strokes. There's so many different things that come out on that. Weight gain, there's even weight loss, and all that leads to physical ailments. And the reason why we get depressed is because we're always looking at what we don't have. Right now, you are at a point in your life where you're at. You need to be grateful that you're there, you're alive, and strive for more, strive for better. But you can't just strive or focus on something more and better and just sit there and wait for it to come either.
So not even that a cause for anxiety or depression is not only something that we fester over and it eventually becomes a depression, but sometimes it's an actual chemical imbalance that people may have.
Yep.
According to science, at least, it's still one of those things that it may not be definitive at this point, but we know that some people do need medication to actually fix that problem. So
it's just like schizophrenia. I have to have medicine.
Yeah, so depression, a lot of forms of it, at least chronic depression or even mild depression, is something that can be treated. So it's not like you have to be stuck in that headspace
I'm
forever.
antidepressant pills too. I'm on risperidone for the schizophrenia, and I'm on venlafaxine for depression.
Yeah, and me myself too. I'm pretty sure it's not something, because going back to what you're saying again, it's not something always that you could just pull yourself out of, because over the years I've tried to control my depression and just be like, when I am in those states, let's get up and see what I can do about this. Let's try and actually be active about it. And yeah, to a certain point, it does help. But when you're going through those days where it's overwhelming and you don't even want to get out of bed, yeah, you can get up, but it's not going to solve the problem.
No.
More or less, it's still there hanging over your head. It's like being out in a rainstorm. An umbrella only does so much for you.
Yeah, and you might feel those days to where you're maintaining it, you're having that control over it, and you're saying, oh well, so I don't need professional help because I have control of my life. But then you could get so overwhelmed, even if it's just talking to somebody, counselor, friend, family, and a lot of people goes back to being afraid to come out. That's what's happening in the rural areas. They know so many people, and that's that fear because of the stigma. And people are afraid of death. People are afraid of being embarrassed, their own ego, being afraid of letting people down. Those are the main things right there. And then what's happening? It's leading to suicide.
Can I not share? I mean, you've already heard this story before, but my point here would be going on disability. So maybe about 7 months ago, I made a real conscious choice to change my physical health to see how much that would actually correlate to my mental health. So I changed up my diet. I was doing really bad. My depression was at an all-time low. I was unemployed. I was even developing a rash, that I had to go see the doctor for.
Which led to physical ailment.
Which led to physical ailments, further physical ailments. I wasn't doing good. I was overweight. About... I'm normally walking around, I'm like 150 or something like that. I was at like 170, so that was all just from binge eating and staying up late, and I was constantly consuming just greasy foods and it was horrible. I was tearing myself down. I was out of shape. I probably couldn't even touch my toes if I wanted to stretch. So yeah, I decided to make a choice because I got so tired of it that I wanted to start working out. And at the time, I was doing recording engineering for artists locally. We have a studio that we go to, and I was doing that. And even in the midst of those recordings, I really didn't even want to be there. So even something that I loved as much as music, that I have a passion for, I still couldn't be in those environments because it was just too much for me. So eventually I had to let my partners know that, look, I can't even be doing this. I need to really, really focus on myself right now. So I basically stopped everything else that I was doing in my life, including music, and anything aside me getting healthy was unimportant. I mean, other than my significant other and stuff like that, but anything else that was going to take time away from that was unimportant to me. Yeah, so one of the first things that I did was I did have medical insurance through Medi-Cal. I started scheduling appointments for behavioral health. And they have a little clinic right there where I'm from that you can go to, and they basically evaluate you and this and that. And it's a temporary, like a psychiatrist slash psychologist. So I scheduled an appointment with her. I went in there and I saw her, and I got a couple of things off my chest. And
how long did it take you to
this whole process to
actually go see her?
Maybe a week or something like that.
Oh,
yeah, because it wasn't a real like.
Was it before the psychologist?
Yeah, this was the psychologist before the psychologist type of thing. It was just something that's immediately available to you if you really need to see somebody. So,
and that still took a week.
And it still took a week. Yeah, see, it still took a week, dude. When I called her, and this is going into the future. I wasn't feeling good again. Long story short, and I tried to call my lady again so I can start getting my appointments going again so I can go see my doctor. And I called, dude, and the receptionist, and I'm in a bad mental state. Imagine people that are worse. So I called, and the receptionist was like giving me shit, like, why do you want to talk to so and so? Like, I was like, it's my dog. She was like, yeah, can you hold? And this, like, she's rude to me. And she comes back on, and she was like, what is this regarding, sir? I was like, my mental fucking health, and I hung up. And literally 5 minutes later, my doctor called me back. She was like, oh, I'm sorry about that and this and that. So, dude, imagine somebody who's like on the edge already.
Yeah.
And they're trying to like get a hold of something. I mean, if you're ever in that position, please call 911.
Yes.
Or reach out to somebody. But for me, it wasn't to that extent. But I can only imagine that could potentially push someone over the edge.
Oh, yeah.
It just sucks that when you're feeling that way, you have to go through that to to be able to go see somebody. So yeah, it took about a week. And first thing I did was I went to the doctors, and like I said, she was a psychologist, and she was evaluating me, all my symptoms and everything, and she recommended that I go take a walk. So when I went home that following day, I probably just went on about my day, but the next day I decided, all right, I'm gonna get out of the house this time, and I'm gonna go take a walk. So that was the first thing I did. I went from the beginning of my apartment complex all the way to the end and back, and it was I want to say it was winter time, but the sun was shining, so it wasn't that bad. I was able to get out there. And it went from 1 walk to 2 walks to 3 walks to 4 walks. And then I was like, look, I'm feeling a little bit better on top of my diet. So I started changing my diet as well. I went to the store, using my food stamps, of course. And I bought nothing but healthy food. All vegetables, chicken, rice, and all that
Which
stuff.
are more expensive than
Which
stuff
are
that's
more
not
expensive.
healthy.
And I started eating well on top of these walks. So that eventually turned out to me jogging and then, jump roping, and then slowly started doing push-ups and sit-ups and chin-ups and all that stuff combined with my my eating schedule, my habits. I started eating clean. And then all from that, I eventually, 3 months into it, lost 35 pounds. I was in really, really good shape. I was really cut. I was my cardio was better than I'd ever seen it before. And in the middle of that, I started seeing direct results mentally. That,
So it does
it was
help.
actually calming my fatigue and my anxiety and stuff. And I really started to see these beneficial effects from, being physical and active every day. My attitude was more positive. And, but after a certain point, I got used to my regimen. Eventually my depression just started coming back because when I first started working out, I got really addicted to the results. I got addicted to seeing my body change, and I got addicted to how it was affecting my my mental attitude towards everything. And that was kind of what I called it, the newborn stage of like working out and changing your life. It was so brand new to you, but 3 months into it, I just got used to it. So I kind of, remember I told you previously, if you remain stationary,
Yep.
it starts to get dangerous. So it started getting complacent in my head, and I started to get bored with it. And then that's when around the time I started thinking about doing my medication. So
Oh yeah, I remember.
so since I was going back and forth to the doctors, it took about another like 3 or 4 weeks to even see my specialist, so the psychiatrist. So long story short, I ended up going, and they gave me a medication to take. And when they put that medication in my hand, that's when it became super real to me, because I've known that I've always been diagnosed with something, right? But I've never actually actively sought out help for it to the point where I got these medications in my own hand, and these are for me to consume, and this is going to be my life from now on.
And then that's another pressure on your head.
So here's where I'm going with that, is those pills alone changed my whole mind state. I never took them because I was terrified of it. That's one of those things that I have within me, that I'm afraid to mess with my brain chemistry, because
That's a stigma also.
that too.
outside stimuli.
Well, for me, it was more of a physical thing, because I can get into that more. But long story short, I was afraid to actually start the medication. So on top of that, I never took my medication, and things got tight at home, and I thought that I was in a place mentally and physically where I was ready to go back to work. So I was jumping ahead of myself, not knowing that just because I put in 3 months, that I'm already cured. You know what I mean? I got way ahead of myself. And this may happen for some people,
It happens to a lot of people.
I was seeing such results that I thought, you know what? All right, I got a handle on this now. I'll be okay. So I went to a place where I used to work. I left on good terms. And I asked for an interview or an application. They gave me an interview, and they basically hired me that same day. And that following week, I went back to work. So I thought that when I first started work, that everything I had done, I was just going to maintain it. And I was doing construction. So if anybody out there has done construction, you know exactly how it is. It's very physically demanding.
Tough work.
Generally, a lot of hours, especially in the summertime. And that's exactly when we were approaching summertime. So that's when I got hired again.
I remember that.
I worked for maybe that first week. I worked out for maybe 2 days, and packed my lunch for maybe 2 days because I was cooking my lunch every single day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Healthy foods, right?
Healthy foods still, and I didn't intend to fall off. I really did. It wasn't my intention. My intention was to keep going with it and try and hold down the job at the same time and just maybe maintain my new lifestyle. That didn't last very long. Oh, and not even that. Before I even got my job, what I wanted to get into, the whole point of this, was when I received those medications initially, I had been going back and forth with my doctor about disability, about going on disability. Mm-hmm. And she asked me what my goals were. And I said, eventually, I do want to be able to go back to work. I don't want to be dependent on, some form of income that puts me in a box. And not to say that that's what anybody is. It's just for me, I felt like I didn't want to be trapped. Because, I don't know, I have a tendency to get bored. And the thought of that really, really scared me. And that's when it became even more real. So now I got these pills. And that freaked me out a little bit because it makes me feel like this thing got more real. Because a lot of the times they'll have this mental illness, but it just becomes a part of who they are. And it's almost like you've accepted it at a certain point.
Yep.
But when you're reminded of that in such a dramatic way, as far as here, you're going to start taking these medications now, it kind of reveals itself to you all over again. It's like
you're facing the truth.
It's you're lifting that veil and you're looking your mental illness directly in the eyes, and there's nothing you can do to hide from it. And whether you take those pills or not, you're still going to be that person. So on top of that, going on disability was a possibility for me. I was really, really close to doing it. And I freaked myself out. So what I did was subconsciously started talking myself out of it. And that's why I got the idea of going back to work. So I was like, look, okay, I'm not going to go on disability. I'm not going to have this stigma put on me. I already didn't all these things went through my head.
The fear of society.
The fear. Yep. It was put into me. So I was like, you know what? No, I'm going back. And I told myself, too, when I left construction, I don't like to backtrack. I told myself I'll never go back there. And where did I find myself?
Going back
to construction.
That's what happens. It's like a circle that never gets complete.
So what I want to say is even though I was doing good, even though I was actively doing something about becoming healthier, it's still, with all the progress I had made, found a way to collapse me. Me being in my own head, me overthinking everything, me festering over all these things, going on disability, which probably would have helped me, because if I would have just gone on disability, I would have still maintained my regimen that I was on, and I should still be on it today.
This is the thing. I went through that for a little while, and finally I told myself, look, you have to do this. What it is you have to face that, and that's your truth. You have to learn to embrace who you are. Anybody who's unhappy, what I started to do, and this is a really good tool, is you look at yourself straight in the mirror. And the hardest thing for anybody to do is stand there and stare at themselves in the mirror. And you have to start to embrace every single part of you.
But really,
you have to start loving your eyes, even though you might have green eyes and you want blue eyes. Green eyes, you want brown eyes. You have to start embracing your curves, the color of your skin, the color of your hair. You have to embrace yourself, because that is who you are. And once you face who you truly are inside and how you are and what you've become, then it starts coming easier. And then you stop giving a shit about what everybody else is going to think, because you come to yourself and come to your senses, basically, and you say, you know what, that's who I am. And if you don't like me because of who I am, that's not my problem, that's yours. Mm-hmm. And another thing that people do is you didn't even start the medication.
I didn't even start it.
Some people
had them.
Some people start the medication, they start feeling better, and they said, wait, I don't need this anymore. I'm going to stop. And you know what happens a lot of times? They end up worse than what they were before they even got onto the medication. Yeah, that's really bad.
That was another fear of mine too. It was all right, I'm doing really well. Why am I going to mess with that? Exactly what you just said. So if I take these pills, I had another fear in my head of what if I end up worse than I was? What if I end up worse than I started? And I start thinking to the future and extrapolating all these, these ideas of where I might be in the future. And I find myself in a spot thinking, way overthinking things and being like, man, I should have just been thankful for where I was at.
There's cancer patients out there that...
Yeah, but I talked myself out of it.
Yeah, that's what happens. And that's even... that was before you took that medication.
Mm-hmm.
People who take the medication and they stop, they even end up worse. I haven't stopped taking my medication. I've skipped a day on my depression, my antidepressant medications, and whoa, was I screwed.
Really?
But that's something that you have to get weaned off of. But there's even cancer patients out there that have to take a pill for the rest of their life every day to prevent cancer from coming back. Imagine if they just stopped doing that.
Needless to say, it's you have to be very strong-willed, and it's not something that's going to be easy. It's going to be exhausting.
That's where it comes from, where you have to embrace who you are and start loving yourself. Because if you love yourself that much, you're going to want to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah, if you care, you're going to do something about it.
That's right. Because you love yourself so much. Who wants to die? No one wants to die.
But even if you don't love yourself, you need to realize that you are important enough to where you should be doing something about it. Because you said if you love yourself, you'll be doing something about it. But a lot of people, they don't love themselves, so they don't do anything about it. They hate themselves. For me, same thing, man. I'm my own worst critic. I look in the mirror. There's been times where I've just been disgusted, But everybody knows exactly what that feeling is.
And a lot of that stems from guilt, shame, whatever, all that stuff that builds up.
And the last thing I want to do when I'm feeling that way is go do something about it.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to go to McDonald's, get a cheeseburger, and throw on a movie, and
Aside from delicious, it's not good for you.
That's another thing too. Is man,
all the bad food for us is delicious.
I'll tell you this though: if you are one of those binge eaters who comfort eats, if you do decide, and I recommend it to go on a healthy diet, I promise you that those cravings, all that sugar cravings that you get, they go away. Because if you notice, like after you have a sugary snack, if you're already set in your ways too, especially you've been eating unhealthy for years, you'll notice that you kind of have an insatiable appetite for sugar. You'll have a bag of chips and that's not enough. You'll go have a sandwich and it ain't enough.
I'm 205 pounds right now. I'm going to start a challenge right here on this podcast.
Yeah.
my ideal weight. Yeah, I'm going to. My ideal weight is supposed to be 170, I think.
What I would say is, what are you at now, 205?
205.
I would say, all right, you're at 205. Do it in increments of like 10 pounds. Once you reach that 10 pounds, then go from there. Do another 10 pounds. And then just keep going and going and going. And then you get to where you're going to get. Don't overwhelm yourself with this huge, grandiose goal. Just it's like a rock. You're going to chip away at it slowly.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to knock on your door because you were doing all the push-ups and all that stuff.
I could show you how to do all that stuff. and where to actually start because
start working on this.
Mental health and physical fitness go together. That's one piece of the puzzle that's gonna help you get better. I think it's therapy, psychiatrists, actually being on medication, surrounding yourself with good people, and then physical fitness. Yeah, your tribe. All those things together. So that's just one element that eventually will result you in being a lot healthier. But that's one key to the piece of the puzzle. But I could show you how to do all that stuff, and it's not very hard because a lot of people get overwhelmed with how do I start? What do I eat? Do I have to know how to cook? Yes. How do I do it? Like, what do I even start with? Because a lot of people, they try and jump into it right away, and they work out so hard that the next day they're way too sore to do anything. They're sore for like a whole month, and it scares them away from working out. That's why I said it started off with just one walk. Yeah. Then that led to two, and I gradually worked my way up to a point where I can be at this level where I'm actually physically in shape now. Even if you move one step, even the length of a needle point, you still took a step forward. Yeah, you're not going backwards. No, you have to keep going forward, but you're not going to be able just to sit there, take a diet pill and expect a miracle to happen. You have to take the actions to do it because action is everything. Yeah, progress. Little by little by little by little, you'll eventually get to where you want to get. Little steps lead to big steps, and big steps lead to even bigger steps, and then you have your goals accomplished. And then you can help other people, and that's great. Yeah. You've heard it before where, like, they describe it as, like, if you roll the ball down the street, and it's one, okay, you have two balls, and you roll them down the street, right? Yeah, I have two balls. Yeah, me too. You roll them in separate directions, though, but slightly. Like a millimeter to the left, and one's a millimeter to the right. Yeah, for a mile, it's not going to look like it's very far, but over time, eventually, they're going to be that much more spread out. Yep. Like miles and miles and miles and miles apart. just because you made that one little incremental move, like minute shift.
That's a good way to look at it. I like that.
Yeah. So I mean, that's basically what getting in shape is, because it's just your muscle fibers tearing down and rebuilding themselves, tearing them apart and then rebuilding.
Getting rid of all that fat and
yeah.
turning it into muscle, and
eventually over time though you have a muscle, and that's what it is. And the same thing with mental health. It's a huge process, like you said last time. It was 3 years before you even got your medication tuned.
Oh yeah.
Before you were actually able to comfortably function throughout the day. So.
And there's been plenty of times as well to where I think, wow, you know, I do feel better. I wonder how it would be if I just stopped. But no, you can't. I mean, it's, you know, the risperidone. It's the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But it's who I am. That's how I was born. I love myself now more than ever. And I'm taking care of myself. I could die tomorrow in a car accident. There's so many shootings out there because of mental illness. I could get shot at a store, anywhere. Somebody could just walk up and kill me, or kill me because they want to. You know what? I'm ready. I'm ready for death. And once you decide at a certain point in your life, hey, I could die tomorrow. What am I ready for? Did I complete everything that I wanted to complete in my life? No. But you know what? I'm going to at least die, if I do, doing what I wanted to do.
Well, with a purpose.
With a purpose. That's right. And getting the message out there, doing what we're doing here right now, talking about it. We have an awesome tribe. We surround ourselves with good people. And taking medication like I'm supposed to, and starting a new diet.
Yeah. And slowly get into it. You don't, like I said, you don't got to overwhelm yourself with the thought of having to go cold turkey. Just slowly get into it, and eventually you'll get to the point. If you stick to it with, persistence, you'll eventually get to your goals.
It's like building,
and then
a habit.
It just becomes a lifestyle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is too. At first, when I told myself when I started the journey of physical fitness that if I wanted to, I was gonna have a hamburger, and it worked for an X amount of time. But eventually, it just becomes a lifestyle, But you do get to a point where you're so physically fit that every now and then you can have a day where you kind of binge,
Mm-hmm.
But you're gonna be so far ahead that it's barely gonna affect you. All you have to do is get back on your regimen the next day, and you're fine. So you can enjoy certain things. You just have to reserve those, X amount of months that it take wherever you're starting from. Take those months and really, really dedicate them to getting better. And then after that, but it's only it's temporary though.
It's
and then after that,
habit.
then after that you could space it out. Then you could take some days off, Because a lot of people get overwhelmed with, I'm going to be stuck in this place forever. I can't ever have, sugar again. And I'm going to be, it's boring to a lot to
Yeah. That's why a lot of New Year's goals are never complete.
Yeah, but you can have both though. And once you do it the right way, you can eventually have both. So another thing I wanted to say too was, or a topic I kind of wanted to get into and just see what you have to offer as far as that goes. Remember, I wrote down the other day, I said, when cured from depression, people tend to feel like something is now missing because the depression became a part of who they were for so long. How do you feel about that?
Well, that on my end, having schizophrenia and then dealing with the voices that I had in my head, I actually missed Jones. I didn't miss Jeremy. Jeremy was bad, just a bad guy always telling me a bunch of bullshit that I didn't want to hear. But Jones and Sammy, I actually felt so lonely not hearing them anymore. I felt it was like a relationship, or basically like a grandparent. I've lost people in my life. My grandmother was here one day and then she passed away by the next. And it's like, wow, it's a complete cutoff. You hurt and you yearn for them, and you know that you love them. I loved my voices. I loved them.
You ever seen?
I still love Jones, and I still love Sammy.
You ever seen Castaway?
Yeah, I saw.
Remember how like reluctant he is to start developing a dialogue with that ball, that volleyball. Yeah. But eventually, over time, he cut that motherfucker open. He stuck some hair in it. He drew a face on it, and eventually, he had like a full blown relationship. Yeah, with a relationship with this thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it became a part of who he was, and he became physically and emotionally like wrecked when the ocean dragged it away and you couldn't have it anymore. And
Yeah.
I imagine that would be the same premises, those voices in your head.
Yeah, that I still miss them. I really do. I really miss Jones a lot. She was such a sweetheart to me, and I miss Sammy. And I know the way I'm saying it, but I mean that's how it felt.
But it's so real to you that people will never understand that. And I feel like it's a same exact thing with depression. And I'm not far enough ahead to know maybe what that feels like. But there are times where I'll have, with bipolar works, depending on what you have, it'll come and go. And sometimes it'll be there, your depression will be there for months, or it'll just be a week. And same thing with your manic states. It'll be a week or however long, you know. But there's been times where I've been baseline, which means I'm not having any symptoms for a month or two, maybe. And during those times, I start to feel like something is not right. Even though I'm feeling good, I feel like there's this chaos that I got used to.
Like if you're missing a limb?
Like, yeah, I'm like this phantom pain that I just got used to for so long. And
Yeah,
I developed an attachment towards it. Like almost a yearn for that misery in a weird way, which sounds like completely
Isn't there a saying misery brings
counterintuitive.
company?
What's that?
Isn't there a saying misery brings company or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. But I started to find a little piece of myself missing that depression and that chaos that I got used to. And almost to the point where I'm intentionally provoking arguments with my significant other. To the point where like, yeah, I'm gonna let me just start an argument right now so I can make up with her and then it'll feel that much better, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm like actively trying to cause an argument with somebody because I miss it in a fucked up way.
And you want to feel that sadness. You want to feel bad.
Which is weird, right? But that's the wiring in my brain. It's just that's how I grew up, and fell into this pattern of depression for
It's
so
funny
long.
because I don't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you might not understand my voices. But again, and this is in general speaking, it's not for me to understand. It's not for us, everybody out there, to understand how I am or how my voices worked for me, or
you can't relate.
how I'm, because you can't relate. But we could have compassion
No,
for others.
but you can relate.
Yeah, I can relate. Yeah, definitely. And we need to have that compassion for others. We need to end that stigma, and we need to understand every single one of us is different. Not one of us thinks the same, acts the same, nothing like that. Maybe a little bit or a little close to it, but not exactly the same. And that's what everyone needs to understand. Think about the other person. Walk in their shoes. You'll never fully be able to walk in their shoes, but at least understand.
Yeah, try and gain a little bit of perspective of where they're coming from, so you guys can talk about it.
It's just like the argument. Like we said before, there's two people arguing, and of course that person's right because that's how they feel.
Come on, Lily.
And of course I'm right because that's how I feel. There's always somebody right, and both of you are right in the argument. No one's ever going to win an argument, because even then you might give in and walk away, but you're still going to say, oh yeah, I'm fucking right. You know, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
You know, so it's understanding that it's separating ourselves from our own bias.
Yeah. But you can't let all that shit blur the bigger picture.
Yeah, blur your focus and your mission, because your dreams are your dreams. No one will ever come close to believing or feeling in your dreams. No one will ever come close to your dreams because they're yours, just like you will never come close to anyone else's because it's theirs. But it's not giving our own personal opinion, but we could support people. We could support them and say, hey, you know what, go for it. And I'd rather somebody fail trying to do something that they wanted to do than never attempt to try it anyways.
Yeah.
You have to at least take that step. You have to take the leap forward and try to do whatever it is you want to do, whatever it is your heart's desire is or what you're dreaming about, and fail doing it so that you could go back, correct it, and do better next time.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you never even initiate the step, you've never tried. And that's worse than not trying at all.
I mean, what would you rather have, right? Would you rather have this dream or this goal? Would you rather die knowing that you actively did something about it? Or would you rather go to the grave or be in your deathbed knowing that you have all these regrets?
And that happens. You know, they ask people in convalescence homes and stuff, they say, hey, you know, what did you like about your life? And a lot of people that are older, they say that they wish they would have done what they wanted to do.
Can you pull maybe look for it? There was this thing on The Guardian.
The Guardian?
The Guardian. They asked people what were their 10 most dying regrets, and I think one of them was they wish they would have, like the top 5 of them were they wish they would have loved more, and they would have been more honest or something like that, and then chase their dreams. 10 regrets of the dying by The Guardian. Try that.
You know what we should
But
do?
that was something that I really wanted to do, and this has been an idea of mine for years, and probably a lot of people out there. Is I would like to dedicate some time to actually maybe go into those homes and
We should
sitting
do a
down with these
podcast
people.
from there.
Yeah, sitting down with these people and actually asking them some questions and getting their true feedback because they've lived through it. You know, they're in a point of their lives where they're very vulnerable because they know that it's coming to an end and their time here on Earth is eventually gonna expire. So they're in a state where they're very real with themselves.
Maybe we should do a podcast from there.
And I would
That'd
like
be
to
cool.
I would like to get some questions and ask them what is it do you advise the younger generation who still has their youth to how could they use their time more wisely? What aspects are more important?
You
that
know what
learned?
number 1 is on their website? I wish I lived for myself more.
Yeah, and these are from people that
That's crazy.
are on their deathbed. They're ill.
I wish I didn't work so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2. Number 3, I wish I didn't hold back my feelings.
Yep.
That's a big one right there. I wish I stayed in touch. I wish I was happier. I wish I cared less of what others think. Like I was saying, like we were just discussing. I wish I didn't worry so much. I wish I took better care of myself. That topic you were on, the health. I wish I didn't take life for granted. I wish I lived in the now.
The present.
Yep.
That's it. I think it's
That's
just the
key.
top 10. Go back up a little bit. I wanna, cause it has like a little article that you can read. I wish I didn't. Which one was it?
Hold back my feelings. Didn't work so hard.
Read one of them. Read what one of them.
The first
says.
one?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
I
I
wish-
wish I lived for myself.
I wish I lived for myself. According to Bronnie Ware, a
Palliative nurse.
palliative nurse from Australia, many of her dying patients listed this as their biggest regret. We are care patients in their last 3 to 12 weeks of life, and hear many stories and confessions from them all. Well, she said that all of them found peace for their death. Listening to their regrets moved her so much that she actually wrote a best-selling novel about it called The Top 5 Regrets of Dying.
Yeah. Let me see. So go back up a little bit. I'm gonna read it. Yeah. So 7 to 12 weeks. We'll just say 7 to 12 weeks. Go back. Said that they found peace before their death. 7 to 12 weeks. They knew that they only had that amount of time, that window to actually live. So like I said, they're in this very vulnerable state
I don't
where they're
think it's
very
right,
brutally
man.
honest with themselves. And this was something that it struck a chord with me when I heard this a while back. I forget where I heard it. I think it was on the Joe Rogan podcast where somebody maybe mentioned it. And these were 10 things that they regretted the most.
And in regards to that first one, I wish I lived for myself more. In her book, she mentioned that many of her patients had not honored even half of their dreams that they wanted to fulfill. And this caused them major regrets towards the end of their life. They wanted so badly to knock their other things off their bucket list.
Their monetary values.
Yep. But they had to die knowing they still had dreams. Don't die with your dreams. That's crazy. That's Lisa Nichols mentions that a lot, where we're all born with we all have 2 important dates in our life. The day we're born and the day we die. And that's what you see on your tombstone. And that dash in between, what are you going to do with that dash?
What are you going to do with it?
That's the important thing right there, because, you're born. That's great. You die. Hey, but what happened in between that time? What's that dash? How are you going to value yourself and your dreams to fill in that gap?
And that's why mental illness and depression is such a contributing factor to a lot of these reasons, is because what you do in between your death and your the time you're born is usually based off of your mental state. Where are you at mentally? So if you're depressed your whole fucking life, you're probably not going to do much with half that time.
And probably they're depressed because they're not fulfilling their dreams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that too. So it works both ways. So it's a vicious circle that just like never ends. So become aware of it, do something about it, and then change these outcomes.
And don't give a shit about what people are thinking, or they're gonna say, or they're gonna think, or they're gonna judge you. Because a lot of us, like, we don't want to go on, record ourselves or whatever, because of fear of what other people are gonna say or think about us. You know what?
At a certain point in time, you gotta let that go, and you just gotta really reveal how you're feeling, and just be in touch with your true self. And you never know, it might resonate with somebody. And if not, hey, at the end of the day, you got to express yourself truly. And I'm sure that that's a form of therapy in itself.
Mm-hmm. And you got something off your chest.
Yeah.
You know? And you feel better about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always at the least one person who will hear your story and will be inspired by that. That's what matters. Even if I died tomorrow and there's one or two people that were inspired by my story and they made a change in their own life and decided to turn around and live their dreams, hey, it's worth it.
Yeah, a lot of the times that I become struck with inspiration, it's usually when I'm like watching YouTube videos, something like that. I found myself intentionally refraining from those types of videos. You ever do that? Like you'll see a motivational video or maybe a motivational song, but I'm in such a weird state of mind to where I almost don't even want that inspiration to strike me.
Because you don't want to face that truth.
Because I don't want to face it, because I know I'm actively going to have to get up and do something about it. So I'll find myself scrolling through those videos of wanting to click on those videos just to see what they hold. And the times that I do, though, I'll find myself leaving comments like, thank you for the inspiration or thank you for whatever. And I'll become inspired by it and want to do something about it.
You know, there's breakthroughs that people get just from one little video.
But that's how like fucked up it is where I got to the point where I still get to the point where I don't necessarily even, it pains me so much to where I don't even want to feel that inspiration because I don't want to have to face it. Because that's probably a big reason why even when I commute from place to place, I don't even listen to the radio. It's mostly just podcasts and stuff. But I don't even listen to the radio, dude, because it provokes certain emotions within me. And I'd rather just keep that to I just keep it all in a bottle, which is not healthy.
It's not good. And we need to get out of that bottle.
Like how many box. There's not a lot of people, like I know a lot of people who are in a similar state of mind as me as far as like depression goes or everyday struggles, but it still fascinates me that they wake up to music. They listen to music throughout their day. They go to sleep to music. For me, that's like a foreign thing to me. I don't know how they do it. I don't know. It's weird. Because I hear music and I like, it doesn't make me feel good. I don't know. Like, because it provokes these emotions. It's like striking certain chords in my heart that I don't want to be in touch with.
Well, it's just like certain movies people shouldn't watch.
Yeah.
Or it's not good for you to watch if it's going to strike that chord or if it's going to, you know...
Speaking of yesterday,
spike that tip.
Like so yesterday, right? We were watching a movie, and I generally lean towards like comedies and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I like to reserve my emotions, and especially when I have a problem with showing my emotions when they actually hit me, especially with my girlfriend.
That's a man thing.
But it's also something that I think needs to be fixed and worked on.
Yep.
Is to express yourself truly when you are in those moments. And so she decided to put on a movie, and it was about a dog and the dog's the companion, the owner, and the companionship that got developed with that dog and everything. It was a really sad movie though, and I could tell that like it was.
Your eyes tearing up, bro.
No, but during the movie though, I was like, dude, like fuck. I'm sitting there silent. I could tell my girl's getting like sad, and I'm getting sad, and this and that, and I totally just found a way to completely. Yeah, I totally found a way to just kind of like trick myself into not being sad, which is fucked up because it's a beautiful thing, you know. I'm feeling these emotions and I'm feeling attached to something, and I develop more, even in the moment, companionship and appreciation for my partner and this and that because it's like such a sad movie. And I wish I was man enough to just in those moments just let go and just cry if I wanted to. You know what I mean? And a lot of the time I can't do it because I'm too focused on keeping this false bravado up.
Yeah.
You know, this
machismo.
Yeah, this fake thing that doesn't even it doesn't even matter at the end of the day.
Well, even like in our culture, our Latin culture, the Mexican guys will tell us if you cry or something, ¿Qué pasó con tus huevos? Like, what happened to your balls?
Yeah.
Did you lose your balls or something? It's like really.
But it's just one of those emotions that we're born with and we can't control it. Some people maybe just hide it better, but it's not something. There's another stigma about that as being emotional.
That's right. And we shouldn't hide it. We should be able to express any emotion because we're human beings. Every human being needs to. I want to play you something if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's about 4 minutes, but it's really, really awesome. Just the way it.
And I apologize for like any noise in the background that you're hearing. We're in the living room.
Our chefs are in the kitchen, so.
Yeah.
Let me play this for you real quick. This is what I would listen to every morning.
This is called Lisa Nichols Left the Audience Speechless. Best speech ever.
Are you willing to disrupt any form of what you know? Are you willing? Are you willing to reinvent yourself? Are you willing? Are you willing to become someone you've never seen before? Are you willing to run, leap, and soar? Even at the possibility that you might fall, are you willing? Are you willing to do something you've never done before, say something you've never said before, do the things you don't want to do, say the things you don't want to say, so that you can be the man, the woman you've always known yourself to be? Are you willing? See, I didn't come here to give you a lot of answers. I came here to disrupt your soul with a lot of right questions. Because I wasn't supposed to be here. I was that kid that was always struggling with self-esteem. Am I good enough? Am I smart enough? No one looks like me, makes it anywhere. Chocolate, mocha skin, full lips, round hips, and kinky hair. You just don't see me on TV. You don't see me glorified. You don't see me representing beauty. You don't see me. So the world didn't give me permission to be here. But I didn't ask for it either. So some of you are still asking for permission. And sometimes you have to stop asking for permission. And it's just time to give the world notice. So I just showed up to invite you to give the world notice that you're coming. Give the world notice that you've been here. Give the world notice that you've played polite long enough. Now it's time to play full out. Give the world notice that unapologetic just showed up. Give the world notice that non-negotiable just showed up. Give the world notice that if they can't handle your light, that you're tired, you're no longer going to dim your light. If they can't handle your light, put on some shades. Because when you become that bold, when you become that audacious, when you become that unapologetic, all of a sudden you become infectious. All of a sudden, just the mere glimmer of you, when I can catch a glimpse of you, when I can get in your hemisphere, in your atmosphere, in your zip code, something happens to me because I'm in proximity. And then you become absolutely aware of the true assignment on your life. That you were here to save us. You were here to inspire us. By the way you walk with assistance, by the way you rise above your own uncertainty, by the way you push past your religious conversation, your cultural conversation, your economic conversation, your gender conversation, by the way you show up and say, how can I serve humanity? So what is your quest? It might just be to go home and be 1,000% present with your children. Your quest might be to love an unlovable sibling. It might be that. I'm a girl who, as a mom in 1995, I was broke and broken. And all I was committed to do was not spend the next 25 years in that brokenness. So I didn't decide my quest out of a pursuit of serving the world in a big way. I stepped into my quest becoming committed that I won't have it that way anymore. So however you step, just step. However you step, just step. Sometimes you gotta step out of something before you're stepping into something. Just step. Don't get paralysis of the analysis trying to make sure the step is right. I'd rather you take 10 steps wrong than analyze trying to make one step right one more day while someone's waiting to be inspired by you. I'm still figuring out how to get it right. But I've done some good work trying to figure out how to get it right. One day I'm gonna master this thing. One day. So I just stopped by to stir your soul. stop by to not let you off the hook of your brilliance, of your genius, of your humanity, of the willingness to live in a constant duality, allowing your brilliance and your confusion to coexist, and you embrace them both. Not waiting for another thing, not waiting for another person, not waiting for any permission, not waiting for someone to validate you, not waiting for your mother, your father to say you're okay, not waiting for the man, the woman in your life to say go, be free, not waiting. What are you waiting for?
See, and that's the thing. We're always waiting for approval instead of going out with ourselves and saying, look, this is what I want. This is what I want to do. I'm tired of living the way I'm living. I'm stepping in my own shoes and walking in my own footsteps, and I'm going to make what I want for myself in my life.
When you want it to.
That's right.
And not overanalyzing. That was a big thing that she said too, was paralysis via analysis. That's happened to me, I don't know how many times, where you get into something, you want to do it, and then you overthink it, and by you overthinking it, you don't end up doing anything about it. So you're paralyzed.
Mel Robbins has a book, says a 5-second rule. If you think about something too long, you're never going to do it.
Well, I mean, that doesn't go to say for everything, maybe.
Most
I mean,
things.
certain things. If you know that it's going to benefit you, you know that deep down in your core that you really want to do it, then apply that rule. I wouldn't apply that to maybe gambling $100,000 or something like that, you know? You might want to be more conscious about that.
Yeah.
So, we've been going for like an hour and 11 minutes now. Is there anything else that maybe you wanted to dive into? Something that you felt like you wanted to talk about that we didn't touch on today?
No, we had a really good conversation. That's what this whole podcast is all about, is just having a conversation.
Or anything that maybe you wanted to ask me or anything?
I wanted to. I think I asked
it's
you,
up to you.
How you're feeling, and if you actually went back and listened to the last time we spoke, and if that opened anything up for you, if that helped you in any way.
It did. Starting the podcast process and just being able to vent, there was a lot of things that I was happy about as far as an end result goes, and it did serve as a form of therapy for me. Anytime I talk to anybody about this type of thing, like when I talk to Peter about it, or should I bleep his name? No, it doesn't matter. When I talk to him about it, or when I talk to you about it, it serves as a form of therapy. In these last few days, I've been feeling pretty lousy, but I'll eventually work my way out of it. But I'm happy that we're doing this.
And what's your goal with all this? What's your step? What do you want? What do you want from me? What do you want from the podcast?
Well, my goal just in general is just us to be better than we started this thing. For us to be in a better place than where we are now, and just to keep that going. I like I said, when I turn 30 this year, I want that toast to be to a better decade.
And that's what people need to do more often, because we tend to look at our downfalls more than celebrating even our smallest accomplishments. Victories. Yeah, we have to celebrate ourselves. Even if it's the smallest victory, celebrate ourselves. Hey, shit, my name's Victor. That stands for victory. Your life is a victory. Just even being born is amazing. Because you went through that 9 months of challenge to create yourself, and we got to just create our own lives. And my goal personally is...
I agree with you on what you're going to say next. Yeah, I want to be able to reach people.
Yeah.
Or help anybody.
Yeah, reach people and I know...
Even if it's just one fucking person, I don't care.
Yeah, that's right.
I want somebody to take somebody from my pain and turn it in, or my weaknesses and turn it into their strengths.
That's right. That's right. Because every weakness, every pain that we go through, every adversity that we've gone through is actually a stepping stone for who we've become today. Yeah. And we are amazing people. You're amazing. I love talking to you.
Yeah, me too.
It's just an amazing thing.
It's just kind of cool how everything worked out, huh?
It always does. It always works out. And I feel more comfortable today than I did before.
Big time. There's a big jump.
So.
And I hope I didn't say "you know what I mean" or too much. I'm trying to work on that. My little. Did I say it? I don't think I did. Did I?
No.
Well,
but you know what I mean, though, right?
Yeah, you know what I mean. You want to end on that note, then? I guess it's been.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's almost been an hour 30.
Hey, that's awesome. We did really good, and our conversation got deeper, and that's what this is all about. Just a conversation. you know, having a conversation.
Yeah,
with
we're
each
not
other.
trying to come off preachy to anybody.
Nope.
We're just speaking from passion. You know, this is if it does sound preachy, it's because we're passionate about it. And,
That's right.
So, I think we should end on that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Gotta get
I'm
you
Victor
in, get you out.
Jr. and I'm out. Bye.
All right, guys.